Coming up, these empty shelves in the supermarkets and the missing products and restricted delivery slots from their online competitors. Are the right-wing press right to blame this on the so-called pingdemic? Or is it a convenient excuse as the real consequences of Brexit begin to make themselves felt? Keep watching. We don't ask for financial support through Patreon or YouTube Premium, but if you enjoy our videos, it really helps us by clicking the like button, subscribing, and getting notified of new videos every Wednesday and Saturday. Estimates suggest that we have a shortfall amounting to 100,000 HGV drivers in the UK. Just to be clear, this has nothing to do with the further thousands self-isolating after being pinged by Dido Harding's Serco COVID track and trace app. This is an endemic and structural shortfall of qualified drivers, in large part due to EU workers leaving the UK after Brexit. As we pointed out in our video last weekend, if the number of migrants crossing the channel stayed at current rates, and each one of them was recruited and trained as an HGV driver, it would take more than 10 years for them to make up the shortfall. So that kind of puts some perspective on the right wing's obsession with the dinghies in the channel, while at the same time they turn a blind eye to the dire consequences of Brexit. So why did all those EU lorry drivers leave? Well, a lot of it is due to the impact of Brexit red tape on their earnings. New customs and travel rules mean that international drivers travelling between the EU and the UK have to endure hugely increased waits at customs. Before Brexit, a trailer just came off the ferry or Eurotunnel train and could be picked up and driven off straight away. But now it has to await customs clearance, which can take many hours, and some drivers have reported having to wait for up to 5 days. These delays add up to a huge loss in pay as drivers sit around idle, earning nothing. But it's not just the drivers who are suffering. These delays at customs result in delays to getting produce on the shelves of the supermarkets because of this double whammy. Drivers returning to their EU country of origin, because it's easier to earn money, coupled with the reduced number of drivers who are still doing those international runs being delayed because of the new regulations post-Brexit. And we can't try to recruit additional drivers to make up that 100,000 shortfall because new drivers from Europe can no longer come and work in the UK anywhere near as easily as before Brexit. The standard line issued by the government in the immediate aftermath of Brexit was that these were teething problems. But after 7 months, and as these supply issues seem even worse now than they were in January, they're no longer being labelled teething problems, they're now being blamed on the so-called pingdemic. But there are structural issues for which there appears no immediate fix. The pingdemic is just a temporary scapegoat for what is at heart a consequence of Brexit. And although the current infection rates in Britain are a degree higher than in other European countries, it's interesting to see the many reports from other European countries saying that these empty supermarket shelves are a phenomenon unique to the UK. Our nearest neighbours, France and Ireland, have no shortages whatsoever, despite COVID infection rates that are not a million miles from ours. Yet in the UK, both Sainsbury's and Tesco's are warning they're unable to keep their shops stocked in the way they'd want, with Tesco's also pointing out that because of delays in getting fresh food through the supply chain and onto the shelves, sell-by dates are shorter and food waste has become a real issue, pushing up prices. So how has Johnson's government responded? What genius wheeze has Alexander Boris the Pfeffel come up with? It's quite brilliant, actually. The rules have been changed to allow drivers to stay on the road for longer. At a stroke, the availability of qualified drivers has been increased. Amazing. Yes, of course, by lengthening drivers' hours, you run the risk of having them fatigued and falling asleep at the wheel. But come on, will that really make the roads more unsafe and lead to fatal crashes? Wouldn't that be a small price to pay? I'm being sarcastic, obviously. Rob Mackenzie of the Road Haulage Association, for one, thinks it would be more sensible to allow new drivers from Europe to come and work in the UK by issuing work visas in their thousands. And the supermarkets and the farmers also think that would be a great idea, to extend work visas for shop workers and farm labourers too. An idea which won't go down well with the anti-immigrant, anti-European Brexity cabal in Downing Street, nor for that matter with the 41% of the UK population population who still persist in sharing with pollsters their delusion that the UK was right to leave the EU.